It's one thing my older brother told me a long time ago. You know, my older brother happens to be my hero. You know, he just told me this one simple thing. He said, Ezra, be quiet and listen. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just need to, like, my advice to Africans, to African Americans, to Afro-Caribbeans, to Haitians, to you name it, be quiet. Because inside of our bodies exists something so ancient, it's hard to fathom. And if you were to just be quiet for 1 second and just be quiet. You know, there's a song written by a man whose music we continue to play because his music is unparalleled. And that's Bob Marley. He wrote this song called There's a Naturalistic Glow in the Air. If you listen carefully, you will hear. You know? This song was not inspired by Bob. He'll be the first person to tell you he was here. No. It was inspired by his ancestral heritage. Okay? We've got to understand that we come from a place where everything began. Just that sentence alone should be enough to knock every single one of us 5,000 feet back. Everything began there. So it's a little bit easier for me because I grew up around, you know, my grandfather and my father who consistently would say, listen, this is why your name is this. This is why you're this, because you're coming from this. You know what I mean? So you automatically walk around and you think, I mean, I went to British schools, you know, and I was top of the class. You know, there was nothing they could tell me that was new to me. You're telling me about Pythagoras. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Where are those pyramids? And then you telling me about Pythagoras? Come on, are you making a joke? You know what I mean? So already my mindset was already fully entrenched in knowing who I am. So when I came to this country, and I'm walking around Harlem, I'm walking around Malcolm X Boulevard, you know, I'm just like, wow, in awe, just wondering that there was this man who, in the midst of being taken away from his ancestral lineage, being taken away from everything that was familiar, yet he was able to find out the truth. What that told me is that somewhere along the line there must have been being quiet moment for that man, where he dug deep and he was able to dig into his ancestors. Yes, he didn't have the name Zorro or Mabenda, you know what I'm saying? But he knew, listen, man, I'm coming from somewhere. And this is what African Americans need to do. You need to realize you're coming from a place where everything began. And just be quiet. And it is hard, bro. It's hard. You know, because I remember one of the first thoughts I had here was, it was so cold I couldn't even think. You know what I'm saying? Just a simple thing like the cold. And then I thought, now, let me put myself here for 400 years and see what happens. You know, I remember thinking that. You know, when we come from there, you know, the sun shines, you just grab it out of the hole and devour it. You know, where we come from, you know, you just, you know, women are bare-breasted, so you don't look at a breast and go, oh wow, you know, you just see it. It's a breast. It's not a big deal. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it was that understanding that allowed me to almost kind of see what it's like to have been taken away from my home and my name, just my name. It's something that I think we need to be a lot more sensitive to as Africans ourselves. You know, because we just take it for granted. Oh, my name is Zorro. I know who I am. You know what I mean? There needs to be a mutual level of understanding from both sides. Because that's the only way this thing can be done. That's the only way the diaspora is ever, Pan-Africanism is ever going to exist, is when we stop thinking, this is a Congolese, this is a Liberian, this is a Jamaican. It's never going to work, bro. Because firstly, who said, where does the word Jamaican come from? Is it an African word? No, it's not. Is the word Liberia an African word? Is the word South Africa an African word? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, we don't speak our own languages, man. So how are we going to be able to conceive of things? English is like one of my third or fourth languages. It's Mickey Mouse. There are things that I can tell you in Xhosa, brother, or in my mother's language in Begi. And if you spoke the language, the sun would shine for 1,000 years. That's how powerful they are. You know what I mean? So we need to understand that there's so much that's disconnected. And the only connection that we can make is by opening our hearts. This chest that we all have, these arms that we all have, these hips, these thighs, they must be used for something else other than the huddle. It's just not going to be sufficient. Or catching the ball, or throwing the stupid ball into a net. It's got to be used for something else. How about for a change, we use it to hate each other? You know, because God gave us these frames for a reason. We're just not using them for the right reason. So on both sides, we need to get together and figure out how is it that we have guys who make $150, but there's no like, Andre Agassi built a school. Andre Agassi builds a school to help these people. Yet we've got 20 guys who are making 100 million, if not more. And what are they doing, bro? It just doesn't make any sense. So we're close, man. You know, we're close. Our Now, just see the way I'm saying that, you know that I'm telling you something very deep.
So now we're going to ask the last question. So thank you very much, brother. My biggest Ezra, because in Africa, you're going to say your family name and your client name first, because it's a region you're not like. Oh, somebody had a question about that. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Chokomokamba, and I was just wondering, over the past decade, everybody has spoken about the idea of the world without borders, getting rid of these imaginary lines that we're not too sure who came up with the idea really. And so I'm fascinated by the fact that today we're using fashion to bring us together. But I want to ask you how to explore different forms of art besides plays and playwriting to bring different cultures together. I look around in this room and unfortunately I still see very little diversity. How can we encourage dialogue and more people to attend these functions to see, you know, let's see unity in one room. How can we do that? Are we not going out there and reaching out to those far different from us? Or are we going out there to look for people just like us? For so far, when we look around in this room, I'm looking at people who are passionate desire as bringing the world together. But what about the other person that is not interested or perhaps doesn't know how best to go to a place where they can find people with big ideas and try to embrace these ideas?
You know, my sister, that's a good question. You know, firstly, we know who put the borders up. You know, we know who put the borders up. To bring people together, I would say, firstly, you know, you have to bring yourself together. You know, that's where it begins. You know what I mean? You know, bringing yourself together, open your heart. You know, we have this thing in my father's language. It's called karu. Now, what karu means that it just means you block your heart, therefore you block your vision.